All right. Good morning. How are we doing? It is Thursday, April 2nd today. And today I'm going to be going over today's price action. The two trades I took, one was a break even, second was a beautiful long. And yeah, let's get right into it. And just to preface, first off, I have this free Discord that is coming this week. Stay tuned. It's going to be very exciting. Posting all my daily biases, all my trades, everything is going to be here. I'm looking very forward to building an amazing community with you guys. And yeah, let me just break down the quick bias. All right, so coming into the day on the daily chart, as you can see, we are currently respecting this bearish gap and we are currently respecting this bullish gap. So price right now is just in a weird situation where we are just stuck between two gaps. And that is perfectly fine. That happens sometimes. So on the 4-hour time frame, we can clearly see we have this major buy side liquidity. Now, this target is a very, very far target right now. I believe it's around, what, 500 points? Is that? Why can I not? Here we go. Yeah, 500 points away from that target. That's very far. However, one thing to note is that we do have this 4-hour bullish gap, which price actually ends up tapping into. Now, we can either see price completely displace through this and continue lower. As you can see, we have a big major sell side liquidity draw right here. However, that is probably not the case as we are leaning more bullish. Why is this? Well, in this range, we can clearly see we are trading in a discount. And one thing to note is that we have this 4-hour unmitigated gap above us. And when we are tapping into a bullish gap and we have an unmitigated gap above us, this is an incredibly strong drawn liquidity. And what makes it more strong is that it is the same exact point as our London highs and stacked equal highs right here. So we have this drawn liquidity, London highs, stacked equal highs, as well as a 4-hour unmitigated gap. So this draw is so strong for us not to target. So I would love to start trading in a discount so that we can take a long position to the upside. Now under us, we still have this huge 1-hour fair value gap. This gap is incredibly strong, and the only way I want to see price reach this 4-hour unmitigated gap or London highs is that if we retap into this hourly bullish gap. Now, we are currently sitting under a 4-hour, which I believe we ended up tapping into. So we tapped into our 4-hour bullish gap, and the only thing we're missing is this hourly bullish gap. So at market open, if price ends up manipulating to the downside and we end up sweeping these lows and we tap into this hourly gap, I would love to take a long position if we get an inversion to the upside to this draw on liquidity. So fast forwarding a little bit, we can see that it is exactly what price ends up doing. We tap into this gap, and actually let me make sure we are at the right time. 8:55, so this is 30 minutes before market opens. Let me just fast forward to you guys. Perfect. All right, so we tapped into the hourly bullish as well as the 4-hourly bullish. We're clearly displacing heavier. Look at this discount we are in, right? If we go on the equilibrium tool, we can literally see from the top of this range, which is that London high and that unmitigated gap, to the bottom right here, we are currently sitting in such a discount. And this is a 10 a.m. candle. This should be over here. Perfect. So this is exactly what I want to see, right? We're trading in a discount. We have so much low resistance liquidity above, which I didn't even mention earlier. Just look at all this liquidity. We can literally see all this is low resistance liquidity, which we are just going to end up sweeping out eventually. Now, this is an amazing thing I like to see. Why? We are trading in this discount and we have clear bullish intentions. So I'm going to look for an inverse, and that is exactly what happens. It's 8:50. Let me go to 9:30. So yeah, here we go. So at 9:30, price continues to open up. Now I can either look for a continuation long to this drawn liquidity, which I mentioned, or I can even potentially take a short down to this sell side liquidity and then continue for a long after. And in this situation, what ends up happening at market open is that we ended up trading inside of this bearish fair value gap. And since we are in this bearish fair value gap, one thing I want to see price do is if we displace higher, that is more confirmation that we're going to go to this. And if we end up respecting this gap, we can easily target this major sell side liquidity down here. If it is clear that price wants to displace lower, this is going to be our main target. However, if we do end up getting rejection and end up respecting this bullish gap, then we can easily see that price wants to reject off of this, tap back in, and continue up here. Intermediate lows are such an incredible draw and target, and we know price usually wants to go back to those, and I would be very likely for an inversion to happen if we ended up sweeping that and respected this bullish gap. We tapped into the 15-minute bullish and created a 5-minute fair value gap. Now, if the next candle closes below, this would be a great short opportunity to take. As you can see, we could have our candle here, take profit here. Nice 1.3 RR trade. And what ends up happening on the 5-minute time frame is that we displace so heavily down that if you were to even enter this trade, this RR would be so cooks. Yeah, like really like a 0.2 RR. That's kind of absurd. But if we didn't take that 5-minute, we also had this 3-minute, which I ended up taking. Why am I in Ethereum? Here we go. We had this 3-minute that we took, and usually I know I always say, oh, I am all for the higher time frame inversions. Yes, that is true. But when time was playing out and when this candle was forming, like during this formation of this 5-minute candle, the displacement was so clear that I knew once price is like up to this point right here, we're not just going to reject off of nothing, right? We just kept on continuing down. And what ended up happening is we had a 3-minute inversion as well. And that candle closed a lot healthier. As you can see, this is our 3-minute. We closed right here, and this gave us so much more room to have such a better RR. So this was the trade I had, top of the wick, and I ended up having my target at this major sell side liquidity, which was just that major point right here. And in this trade, I did end up having a break-even point, which was at this bullish gap that I was talking about, right? What I said, oh, if we reject off of this level, we can totally end up pushing to that major draw on liquidity, as that is our main draw. That is our main target for the day. This short was a low risk trade, as I did not put too much on it because it was not my major and primary draw on liquidity. This trade was simply just to initiate this move to the downside, putting us into discount so we could take a long opportunity here. Since we had an inversion and it was clear that we wanted to continue lower first before going up, that is why I entered this trade. And as you can see on the 15-minute, we did have that bullish gap, which I was talking about. So that was my break-even point. If we ended up rejecting off of this level, we could have continued higher. We didn't necessarily need to reach this major swing low. I was also checking ES, and ES never ended up sweeping that low either. However, after this, the trade ended up playing out. We hit our break-even point, and we did not continue lower. We had an immediate reversal, and this TP never ended up getting hit. This swing low has yet to been hit today, and we immediately got stopped out of that trade. So that was trade number one. That was a break even, but that trade was just the initiator to the actual main draw or main idea of the day, which was to look for manipulation to the downside so we can take it long. And that is exactly what ends up playing out. Now, on that same inversion, we actually created a 5-minute bearish gap. Now, this is that same exact play we took, right? We created this bearish gap, and now we want to see price inverse this 5-minute and continue to the upside. And on the next candle, I believe, yes, we created that inversion. We displaced heavily throughout, and that is exactly where I had my entry point. So I had my long position here. I had my target at the 4-hour and mitigated as well as London highs. Like, this draw is so strong. Equal highs, London highs, and a 4-hour unmitigated gap. That is everything you could have ever asked for. Easily A+. And we just had our stop right here. And after we inverse that, what ends up happening is this played out perfectly, right? We immediately displaced higher. We had those clear draws. And if we wanted to continue higher, we could. The only thing is, above us, we had so many bearish gaps. And these are huge. Like, it's not only this, but we had this major bearish gap. We did have other draws if we wanted to continue higher. Like I said, on the hourly, we had that major swing high here, as well as we had Asia highs, which somehow, that was what? How many points away is this? 350 points. And spoiler for the day, we ended up hitting Asia highs in the session. So AM price action was actually incredible today. We had such moves to the downside, and then we had the classic New York AM reversal session where we just swept everything out entirely. Incredibly bullish. I'm actually surprised that we ended up sweeping out Asia today. But we did, and just that was the overall draw, right? We had everything going for our favor. It was clear bullish intentions. That first trade was just looking to catch that quick scalp, that quick manipulation to the downside where we would end up reversing off of that gap. And boom, we can clearly see easily hit take profit. Very simple, doesn't get much better than that. And this is just so perfect. Our clear draw, we entered, we tapped our major hourly and 4-hour gap, as well as that last unmitigated 15-minute intermediate low, which we ended up sweeping out, creating inversion off of that 5-minute and taking it to this draw. That's exactly what we wanted. That's exactly how we had our picture written out in the beginning, in the pre-market analysis. And yeah, that's exactly what ended up playing. Now, these trades are the highest probability trades, the ones where you can actually paint the picture in your head and say, okay, this is what price is going to do. And the only reason I entered this trade is because I already made up that narrative in my head. I already said, okay, we are in a discount. I want to see price target this 4-hour unmitigated gap and London highs. And that is exactly what we did. We created the inversion. I had my clear target from way before. I didn't just create my target 30 seconds before the trade and create all this. No, everything was planned out. And once price aligns to your beliefs based on all your conditions, then that is when you execute. The execution is the least important part. The most important part of any type of trading is your draw on liquidity and what you think price is going to actually do. Once you can actually build that narrative and build that story out in your head and say, okay, this is what price is going to do. I want to see price go to this level. Maybe we'll go back. We'll tap this bullish gap first. We'll manipulate to the downside, sweeping out everyone, stopping out everyone, and then continue up. That's exactly what we did, right? And it played out. We won the trade and we were off for the day. We had one break even and we had one win. That won us $460. So yeah, not too shabby. You can see the executions on my Instagram. I had them turned off because I closed TradingView and logged out of the Trade of 8. So just checking different accounts. Whatever. Everything's on my Instagram. Posted videos about it. And yeah. All right. Well, I hope that video was educational. I hope that informed you. If you guys like this video, please like, comment, share, subscribe, follow, whatever you can do. Everything will be incredibly appreciated. Free Discord and so much else coming soon. And I'll see you guys later. Peace.